So yeah, I was just out at a bike race at Cherry Creek State Park. I actually biked there from here, and it's funny, I was actually racing against the national champion, so that was a lot of fun. Cycling, I love it. I don't know how to explain it. I don't know why. I got on my bike when I was in middle school and started riding to school, and all of a sudden I got hooked. A couple of years later, we moved up to Colorado, and when I came up here, I decided I wanted to start racing. So I found Front Ranger Cycling Club, which is the team I'm on right now, through Alec and Jody Huddleston, who I think they're both in the room right now, so thank you guys very much. And I jumped on the team. They gave me a road bike, gave me a bunch of bicycling clothes, a helmet, paid for my race registration, helped transport me to races all over the state, and the more I did it, the more I realized that there's nothing else I could ever do. And for each of my independent learning experiences here at Remsel, my sophomore mini challenge, my junior internship, and my senior SLE, I've done cycling. Sophomore year, I rode 250 miles around the trails here in Denver. Junior year, I went and worked at Turning Intervals for 3 weeks, helping to put on a team event for one of the teams they sponsor. Couple of months later, I got an email from the manager at the store asking me to come and work there, and I've been working there ever since. There's something about the sport of cycling that's just absolutely incredible. You don't find road bike racing here in the United States as much as you do in other countries. Honestly, if you go over to Europe and you see the bike races that they have over there, a friend of mine was in Europe for the Paracycling Track World Championships as a mechanic a couple of weeks ago, and on the last day he was in Italy, there was a bike race, and they had full street closures, rolling roads, 100 fans, police lining the roads, keeping fans from coming onto the street by accident, and it was a junior race. It wasn't even a big junior race, it was a local, average weekend bike race for the juniors. And this is one of the races that is here in Colorado. That's the Bannock Street Criterium. That's one of my personal favorites. My team helps put that on. And racing has so much to it. There's the physical side. You have to be fit and you have to be strong. You have to have a strong heart, but you also have to have a strong mind. There's so many tactics that you use when you get on the bike in a race. You can't imagine how much thinking there is. You just have to get out there and do it. There's not a moment in a race where you're thinking of something else, what you're going to do when you get home, or what your friends will say when you finish the race. Every single second you're thinking of something that you can do to improve your position in the race. Every single second. And at the same time, you're also watching the road, because there's potholes, there's curbs, there's pedestrians that walk in the street. And also at the same time, you're riding less than 6 inches from everyone around you. So that guy that's behind me in this picture, he was really that close to my wheel. I was almost that close to the wheel of the guy in front of me. And you're doing between 25 and 40 miles an hour. And on 2 wheels, that close to people, when you've got that much on your mind, you can imagine crashes happen sometimes. Honestly, when I first got into the sport, I didn't realize how in-depth it was. But every year that I've been a cyclist, I've learned so much more than I have known the year before. For example, this year in preparation for my SLE, I read almost 1,000 pages of bicycle textbooks and like autobiographies from riders, and I wrote a 27-page paper for my SLE paper. I had to write 20, most people wrote about 8 to 10 pages. I wrote 27, and I barely scratched the surface of the sport. I had a 7-page section on tactics, and I didn't even scratch the surface. I barely mentioned a few of the basic concepts. For my SLE, I wanted to go more in-depth than I've done in the past. So this year, I have spent the last about 8 months trying to get in contact with various pro racers and former pro racers. So I rode with 2 former world champions, 2 active pros, and I also went with Fort Lewis College, which is the school I'm going to next year. Did 2 races with them, and out in Durango. And I also got to ride with Ned Oberend, who's the first ever world mountain bike champion. And that was a funny story. Ned and I were out riding. I showed up to meet him at the local bike shop that he used to work at, actually. And he showed up on his cyclocross bike, which, for those of you who don't know, it's basically a road bike with very wide tires designed for off-road racing. And as a result of the wide tires, it's a lot slower than a road bike on pavement, at least. I was on my fancy racing bike, which is designed for high-end racing. And he dropped me. He left me in his dust. I couldn't, we were holding together just fine for the first 20 miles or so, and then we got to a climb, and I held with him for the first 2/3 of the climb, and then he walked away from me. It was kind of an incredible sight to see somebody who's been in the sport for as long as he has. He's been riding since he was my age, just about, and just to see him and some of the things that he said when we were out there. He is known for being just an incredibly nice person and for always, just riding for the love of riding, for the love of the sport. And when we were out there, I was thinking, 50 years from now, that's who I want to be. Here's a photo that I took of Ned and I after our ride out in Durango. He's a really, really nice guy. I spent 10 days in Durango. I did a preview weekend at Fort Lewis College for accepted students, and I also got to just walk around the town and explore a little bit. And these jerseys that I found, I just found them hanging in the wall of a transport station, a bus station in Durango. These are all jerseys from professional teams. Liquid Gas Cannondale is right up there. Bissell Pro Team, Optum Kelly Benefits, and United Healthcare, signed by the entire teams, each and every one, hanging on a wall of a bus station in Durango. That was really cool for me to see. Over my SLE, I got to work with a lot of really amazing people, but I also got to work with a few really amazing places. So I got to work with Training Peaks, went to tour their place one day and stand face to face with 2 world champions jerseys, including an autographed jersey from Peter Sagan, who's the world champion from Richmond, Virginia, just this past September. There was a photo next to it of him crossing the line doing a wheelie. So it was really incredible to see that jersey. I've been a big fan of his for many years. I also got to see an autographed leader's jersey from the Tour de France from Chris Froome hanging on the wall of Training Peaks. That was pretty amazing. And I got to talk with the guys there and just learn what they do and how they do it. And it's just really incredible. And also, one of the days when I was in Boulder, I got to tour Scratch Labs, which is a local Boulder-based nutrition company for athletes. I'm actually wearing their cycling cap right now. And that's cycling. It's so intense. For my final product for my SLE, I was going to get my USA Cycling coaching license. Unfortunately, there were some difficulties with getting the money to USAC and getting them registered, and there were some issues there, but I got my coaching manual in last week, and I've been studying up on that. So I'll be taking the certification test to get my coaching license on the 16th. So I'm wishing for good luck there. So thank you all very much. Does anyone have any questions? Road racing. Specifically, I'm a big criterium fan. So criteriums are short, very fast circuit races around local streets. My favorite one is the Louisville Criterium, which is a 0.7-mile circuit, and you basically race around it for 30 or 40 minutes. And it's incredibly fast, and because of how fast it is, there's so many tactics that go into it, and that's why it's my favorite. Joelle? What was that? It varies. There are some club teams that'll have 60 or 70 people on them. There are some other teams that are, professional teams usually have about 15 or 20. Jody, did I see your hand?
Well, I was just going to say, if I could speak for the board members with the front rangers that were here, we're just proud as all get out to have you on the team.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Good job.
Thank you. Thanks,
Let's
Eric.
hear it for James.